One of the things my mentor told me that was instrumental when I first started getting into rental properties, he said, treat your very first property like you own 1,000 properties. A lot of people are going to buy one house and they're going to be like, I want to be a real estate investor. And then they're going to become the property manager. They're going to become the property maintenance person.
Yeah.
They're going to be the rent collector.
Yeah.
They're going to be the groundskeeper because you have built yourself a lucrative but very demanding job.
Story is everything. It's actually what drives humanity. It's the reason why Jesus spoke in parables. It's the reason why we fall in love with movies. It's the reason that we actually have relationship. The only thing that makes you and I have a friendship is that I've gotten to know your stories that you've told me, and you've gotten to know mine. The definition of who I believe you to be is a culmination of the stories you've told me.
When I hear like I can't, or I don't know how, or when I hear a fixed mindset, I'm like, okay, there's a limiting belief attached to that.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to today's episode of the Faith Hustle podcast. My name is McQuenda. I'm your host, and we are doing another best of season 2 episode to reflect on all the incredible things God did in season 2, all the amazing gems and guests that we had, and it's going to be amazing. You're going to get some really clear nuggets from the content that we put out in season 2. It's going to be incredible. As well, we are doing another Faith Hustle night, April 4th, 7 p.m. at the Wax Space in Dallas. And it's going to be incredible. If you are a Christian, business owner, content creator, this event is for you. I want to see you there. If you're in the Dallas area, pull up. It's going to be an amazing time connecting with other like-minded business professionals who all love Jesus, who are wanting to do business God's way. So I'm excited for you to enjoy this episode, to learn. Put in the comments what you've been learning. Share this with a friend. Leave a review. I'm so excited for season 3, but let's reflect on all God did, all the lessons we learned from season 2 in this episode. Can't wait to see you soon, hopefully at the Faith Hustle night. Everyone has been asking me, when is the next Faith Hustle night? I've been hearing it nonstop. Well, I'm at the location of our next Faith Hustle night, the Wax Space in Dallas. It's happening on April 4th at 7 p.m. right here. We're having our Faith Hustle night. What's Faith Hustle night? I'm glad you asked. It is a night of networking for Christian entrepreneurs and content creators who are wanting to do business God's way. And I'm telling you, you are in for a treat. We are doing a live podcast panel with some of my favorite people on the planet, Derek Ortiz, Kendra Tall, and Danielle Potang. We are doing a whole talk around content creation, how to make a living from it, and how to do it in a kingdom way. We also have an area for headshots, so you can get your professional headshots done. We'll have a live DJ. You'll get some nice artisan coffee. The only thing that's missing is you. So make sure to be here April 4th. Last time tickets went out fast. So make sure you get your ticket today before it sells out. April 4th, 7 p.m. I'll see you there. So you start Kairos, take that step of faith out. Tell me from that time now to where you are now, what has that looked like?
So start Kairos, one thing that was very important to me was I did not want to take any clients from my mentor's business.
Yeah.
Because for 3 years I had been running his business. So for the last 3 years, any new clientele, that was me bringing those people to the table.
Yeah.
And it could have been easily for me to email and say, hey, I'm doing this.
I'm no longer here.
Would you guys,
Yeah.
But it was important to me. I just didn't want my good to be spoken evil of. Like I didn't want my mentor feeling like I stole people I didn't inform any past clients. So I literally started from ground zero of building clients. I got my first one, and we just started from there. And we just built, and then at a certain point, I was doing what we call project management.
Yeah.
So essentially acting like a general contractor, but not licensed to do so.
Got it.
So we called it project management.
Got it.
And then we started realizing, man, we're having to wait a long time for people to permits. And what does it look like for us to just do this in-house? And so, again, went to the wife, supportive. You can do it if you can do anything.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, let's do it. I went, took the test, passed that, got the general contractor's license. So then we launched the construction company.
Got it.
So now when my clients buy rental real estate, or when we buy rental real estate or real estate that we want to flip for a profit, my construction company comes in and does that work.
So it's all, yeah. So you're getting paid on both sides.
Correct. I get paid when my clients buy a property as a realtor or broker. Yep. Then they do a construction project. My company gets paid there. If they are going to then rent that property, I turn it over to a management company that handles those rentals. Yeah. But if they're going to flip it, then I then list it, and then we make money on the list, on the sale again. So then we started the construction company, and we got Kairos. Prior to Kairos, we had C Realty, which is just my holding company. So all of our personal rentals and Airbnbs and all of that, we hold them in that. And then Quick Sell Memphis, anytime we do flips or we do wholesale deals, this is the company that is the buying entity for all of our flips and wholesale deals.
Man, how many team members do you have that's managing all this?
So we've got 6. So 6. Now, interestingly enough, one of my staff people just resigned.
Gotcha.
So my construction manager, who honestly I thought, 10, 15, 20 years down the road, it was still going to be me and him.
Yeah.
Because, it's interesting how God just does things. But when I was starting my company, this young man came to me and said, man, I want to do what you do. And I said the same thing that my mentor told me. I said, go get your license. Well, he didn't do it in 2 weeks. It took him a couple months.
Yeah.
But from that first conversation to when he got it, I'm transitioning out. So when he came back to me and said, yo, I finally got it, I was like, because the plan was for me to bring him on where I was at with my mentor.
Got it.
And so I told him, I said, man, I'm starting a new thing. I can call my mentor and see if they want you over there, but I'm not over there anymore, and I don't feel comfortable asking you to come be a part of this. Because I'm starting from zero.
You're not trying to poach people.
I'm like, I don't even know if you're gonna make any money with me because I'm starting at zero.
Yeah.
And he said, nah, man, I want to be where you're at. I want to be with you. Yeah. So this dude started with me as soon as we started Kairos, built it to what it is today with me. And then out of the blue, he just kind of told me he was ready to be done. So, we're looking, and we found another person that we've identified as someone to replace that position. And we're kind of going through the training and kind of all of that stuff. But it's not a huge team of people. It's just 6 of us total.
A lean team doing a lot.
Mm-hmm.
That is, how much real estate? Because again, I know there's different segments of it, but how much real estate are you guys operating or managing, or that's what?
Yeah. So for us personally, we have 30 rental units. Some of that's duplexes, quadplexes. So we have that as our personal rental portfolio.
Yeah.
And then we do anywhere from 80 to 95 projects a year.
Oh, wow.
With my clients.
Gotcha.
So when my clients are buying and they're holding or anything like that, we're doing somewhere between that.
That's a lot of deals.
Yeah, it's a lot of deals.
That's a lot of deals.
Yeah,
man, and with a lean team of 6.
Yeah.
That is so good.
We get a lot done. But a lot of it is our process, our system. We have a conveyor belt mentality. So when, my clients all find deals a certain way, we then offer a certain way. We then do our due diligence a certain way. We then do our construction a certain way. And so it's got this conveyor belt mentality where any deal, it just gets in line on the belt and it just goes through the process, and then it comes out a property that can be flipped or a property that can be rented.
Okay, so the way you're saying it makes me allude to think that maybe people stumble if they're in that world and they die by their systems. Maybe walk that through, like, where people, because there's going to be people watching that want to get into what you're doing.
Sure.
what mistakes do you commonly see of people that are wanting to get into real estate investing? Is systems one of them where they make that mistake?
Oh yeah, for sure. Systems and process in any business is going to be one of the life threads of that business.
Yeah.
Because to me, in my opinion, until you have that in place, it's not really a business. It's like a side thing. You know, if you have to be in your business every day for it to work, it's more of a project than it is a business.
Wow.
A business has to be able to operate without you. A business needs to be able to operate with your oversight, but not with your hands on the plow doing all the work. And so and it takes time to get there. I'm not saying, you know, because I didn't do it day one. You know, it took us time to get there. But I would say processes and systems. One of the things my mentor told me that was instrumental when I first started getting into rental properties, he said, treat your very first property like you own 1,000 properties.
Yep.
And so then when he told me that, I kind of looked confused, and he said, "Go think about that." You know, he would do stuff. He would go think about it. We'll talk about it tomorrow.
Yeah.
And so I thought about it, and I started thinking about, well, what would I do if I had 1,000 properties? I was like, yeah, you know, I probably would be using software to manage that. I probably wouldn't want to manage that. So I started. It just got me thinking, like, and so then we came back together, and then when we talked about it, it was like, yeah. A lot of people are going to buy one house and they're going to be like, I want to be a real estate investor. And then they're going to become the property manager. They're going to become the property maintenance person.
Yep.
They're going to be the rent collector.
Yep.
They're going to be the groundskeeper.
Everything.
They're going to be the everything. And what they're going to find is that that's not freedom.
No.
That is hard. Mm-hmm. And it'll work for the first one, it'll work for the second one, and it'll work to X number of them.
Right.
And then before you know it, you'll be what we call a tired landlord. Because you have built yourself a lucrative but very demanding job.
Yeah.
And you can't get out of it. And so then you'll end up selling to someone like me at pennies on the dollar because you just want to get out.
Yeah. It's not even for it to make a profit. It's just like
I got to get this. I'm working I'm working to the bone. I don't feel like I'm getting ahead, and I just want to be done with this. So I would say, number one, if you're going to get into real estate, you got to treat property one like you would if you had 1,000 properties. That's the biggest piece of advice that I got.
Brilliant.
So, man, yes, it's going to cost me more. When I had one house and a tenant would call me and say the toilet's not working, I could jump in my truck and go look and go mess with the toilet.
Yeah.
Of course, and it's going to cost me less to do that.
Yeah.
But when I had that voice ringing in my ear, I was like, if I owned 1,000 properties, if 10% of my portfolio had a maintenance issue every month, that's 100 properties. Would I be driving around to go look at 100 properties?
Yeah.
No, I would not. So what do I need? I just got to go. I got to send a plumber.
Yeah.
And he's going to charge me $75, $100, but that's sustainable.
Yeah.
I could do, if I had 1,000 properties, then man, how many plumbers would I need to service those 1,000 properties that I could just get 7 plumbers,
right?
As opposed to me. So building your business with the end in mind can help, although it can be difficult because there's not a lot of resource there. So part of it is going to be work ethic, hustle, grinding.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that don't do that, but I'm just saying you got to see the end of what you desire.
Yeah.
And I think most people get into entrepreneurship for freedom of time, of money. And so if that's why you're getting into it, like, man, I want to spend more time with my kids, but I want to be able to provide for my family. Well, then you got to be thinking about that from day one.
Yes.
And setting it up towards that end. Doesn't mean you're not going to work hard. Doesn't mean you're not going to grind, but thinking with the end in mind.
That is brilliant. Oh man, when I started my company, I'm in video production. I used to do a lot more marketing and stuff, and I'm a church kid.
Yeah.
That's all I know.
Yeah.
I born on the pew. You know what I mean? And didn't have I had more influences in business as I got older, but not really growing up. It was mostly pastors and all those different things. And so I didn't really know what to do. So all I knew to do was just to do everything, right? And you're just trying to make it work. And I remember this was like maybe 2 years in, and a family member passed away. So, I'm making arrangements to go back home to see family. And it was that moment I had an epiphany of like, once I left, the business stopped.
Right.
Like the way I was building it,
Yeah.
I was building it very much of a worker's mentality. My hands touching everything.
Yeah.
I'm a stickler for quality. Like everything's got to be a certain way. You know, like it's cool, but it doesn't build a business.
Correct.
And that's not what I wanted. And I knew people that were in my same industry, and they're working Saturdays, Sundays, and they might love that. And you got to know what you want ultimately. But for me, I realized, yeah, like you said, how you build in the beginning is going to set the direction of how it's going to end.
For sure.
And at that moment, I had to start putting things in place, bringing on people, taking a little off, but realizing that I'm saving myself. One, I'm building in the way I want to build, but I'm building the systems in place, like you said, as if I had 1,000 clients or however many. And I was able to like scale and grow and have a lot of projects happening at one time where I could never do that as a one-man band.
And this is biblical. If you think about Moses, when he's in the wilderness.
Come on.
And he's managing the Israelites, all of them.
Yes.
And he's trying to like be the guy.
Yeah.
And he's just like, you know, hey, what's your problem? Okay, hey, what's your, and you know, God comes in and says, no, this is unsustainable.
Wow.
We need a process here. So let's split off these tribes. We're going to name these 12 people. These people will manage these people, and then only when the biggest, most egregious or most undecipherable cases come will you, Moses, then get involved.
Wow.
And we're going to put this is management. This
I
is
never saw it as that.
systems.
Wow.
This is process.
Man.
So it's like God design is this.
Wow.
So when we're building our businesses, we got to think that way. And it's tough.
It is.
It's tough because when I do it, and still today in my business, when I do it, it's the best because I am the expert.
Right.
I'm the technician. I know what I'm doing.
Right.
But the challenge for me is, man, can I build a system or a process that can get people who don't know as much as me to get as close to my end result as possible?
Wow.
And you may never get there.
Yeah.
It may always be better when you personally do it.
Yeah.
But what we got to figure out is, man, how can we get as close to you personally doing it as we can through our process?
That's so good.
And so it kind of takes out the expertise because the expertise now is in my system, in my process.
Oof.
So anyone can come be an expert as long as they follow my process.
Absolutely. Like it's a fail safe. Like if you do this, I that is so. I for newer entrepreneurs, what this podcast is for, that is definitely the biggest hurdle I see.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've read the E-Myth.
Yep.
I read it early on, and I'm, so for me with books, I might remember one thing. Right, read the whole thing. Don't remember a lot, but I remember one story in there, and I was like, okay, that's all I need to know. And it was a story of a baker, and obviously it was an analogy, and it was like, hey, she was working a job, but everyone was like, you make the best baked goods. Like nobody makes better cookies or cupcakes than you. Forget this job. All you want to do is bake. You should start your own thing. Yeah. She wasn't baking. She was doing maybe a desk job. And so she's like, all right. So she gets a loan, finds a place, gets a name, gets an LLC, all this different stuff, gets some people to help her. Now she's got a bakery, right? And she's like, man, now I get to bake for a living, do what I love to do. And then she realizes she's not just the baker. She's the CMO. Yeah. She's the accountant. She's HR. Yeah. She's all COO. She's all this different stuff. Now, when she goes to bake, she hates it. She's Absolutely. Like, oh my God, I got to bake now after I do all this different stuff. And the book basically says she probably would have been better off as an employee but a baker in a system than doing her own thing because she didn't realize that in what she's doing and being a business owner, what you sign up for is not to do everything. Yeah. Now, obviously, you can pick the thing that you are the best at and the thing that drives it forward. There's different philosophies how to do it. But at the end of the day, if it's going to be a sustainable business, you can't be all things. Right. It's just and you have to one, know yourself, I think, but then two, you got to learn how to do it. And I had to untrain my mind of how to do that, and I had to get around people who were doing it well. For sure. And even some people that weren't doing it well, like I think the big thing that I'm getting out of this, what's the life you want?
What's the life you want?
What's God put on the inside of you? You know, there's things on the inside of me that's like I have to build it in a certain way.
Yeah.
I have a team for this. We're fresh.
Yeah.
Just started this. I have a team I pay every single month that helps me to make more content and do all this different stuff. I don't have to do that. I could do it all myself.
For sure.
I have a whole nother company I'm running, but I'm thinking 20 years down the road. And so I think that's so brilliant, and so many people need that in their early start.
For sure. You won't necessarily be able to do that day one for most people, especially if the financial resources aren't there.
Yeah.
But the mindset has to be there. And the mindset of like, my eventual goal is I want to take my hands completely off of this.
Yeah.
It was so encouraging to me where we maybe a year or two after we started the company, we went on like a 10-day vacation. And I was nervous about that because it's like, man, I'm like, I've been building this stuff. Here's a test.
Yeah.
And I told the team, I was like, listen, I'm going on vacation. Unless it's an emergency, don't call me. And then I come back and there's like 4 contracts that we've closed on this, and they've put the scope of work together on and I just sat back and said, wow, I could literally not do nothing and they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
So, and then it became crucial when my dad died and we were gone for a month.
Yeah.
And I got the opportunity to spend it with my family.
Yeah.
I wasn't worried about work. I took an occasional call or two during that time, but for the most part, I was able to be with my family. I was able to be with my mom. I was able to be with my siblings. We were able to walk through that hard time together, and I didn't have to worry about, oh man, that contract's going to close. Who's going to send the addendum? Who's going to do this? Because I had everything processed out.
Wow.
So it's just, for me, that would be the biggest piece of advice I could give is have the end in mind. Even in the beginning, be thinking about what is this business, what do you want it to do for you?
Yes.
Because if you just want to make money, there are way easier ways to make money than
much
becoming
easier way. Be a salesman.
Don't be an entrepreneur if you just want to make money.
No, not at all.
So it's like, for me, it's like, man, I want to provide jobs.
Yeah.
I want to be able to have time freedom. I really want to be my own boss.
Yeah.
I don't want to check in with somebody. If I want to go to a Cowboys game,
I
want to load it up and go.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to turn in the timesheet. I don't want to have to ask permission for that.
Like when we set this up, you're like, oh, just tell me when.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll make that work. Absolutely. I was like, oh, snap, okay. You own your thing.
Because I want my own, I want to make those decisions myself. I don't want somebody else to be in control of what I'm doing with my life.
Absolutely.
And so for me, money is a part of it. I want to make a lot of money too, but money is kind of secondary to those things.
Absolutely.
Freedom for me was the big ticket.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Moving into specifically, when we talk about building a brand and kind of the nuts and bolts of it, the first thing I would specifically speak on is that story is everything. It's actually what drives humanity. It's the reason why Jesus spoke in parables. It's the reason why we fall in love with movies. It's the reason that we actually have relationship. The only thing that makes you and I have a friendship is that I've gotten to know your stories that you've told me, and you've gotten to know mine. The definition of who I believe you to be is a culmination of the stories you've told me. That's your personality. Is the stories you've told. And so when we recognize that stories are critical, then we look at a brand. It's very hard, I think, for a lot of us to try and kind of, how does a brand be a story? It's just me. It's just my product. It's just my services, and I'm nothing special. And we all deal with that. But the thing about it is that when we can recognize that there's something deeper in the way of what you've built, how you've built it, who you've built it with, there's a story to be told in it. We can start to realize that there's a connection point here between what we do, who we do, why we do it, and the audience over there. And that's why I think that there's a lot of times, if you're not gifted in that area, storytelling or building brands, then it's great to have an outside person come in and see it through another lens.
Yeah.
Because we're often the ones who are most blinded to ourselves.
Yeah.
And so we need that third party perspective to come in and say, hey, no, I actually see you guys. I see you being amazing at this. I see people talk about this. When I hear them talk about you, these are the common themes and the threads that I hear them talk about. And so when it comes to, it's funny, branding has almost nothing to do with brand. It's like literally, when somebody says branding, they literally mean the cover of the book.
Yeah, literally. Yeah.
And brand is the book.
Yeah. It's the whole experience, the whole thing.
So absolutely, it'll be what sometimes makes you pick it up off the shelf. It'll be sometimes what engages you to recognize, it's absolutely critically important because, you must have that. There's a sea of products or services that are competing for my attention. So yes, I need something that's going to grab my attention and keep me here. And it needs to be fundamentally integrated into the rest of it. If it's a great cover, it must be a great book.
Yeah.
If it's a terrible cover, it must not be a great book. And so it must be fundamentally integrated. But branding is simply the cover of the book, which is the brand.
Man, that was a branding 101 breakdown.
Yeah.
And because you do talk about story a lot. And I think, like you said, a lot of times people are like, man, I just do this. And the first thing, you got to eliminate even that statement. Like, I just do this. Right. And I get it. It's hard because, the enemy tries to come at that of like, man, you don't got nothing to say. But it's like, everyone has a story. And people follow stories.
Yeah.
Like, they do follow personalities. That's just the reality.
Yeah.
Even with Faithustle, this story that, like, I recently posted, as we're talking, just hit a milestone on YouTube with, we became YouTube, got in the YouTube partner program of, being able to get AdSense and all those different things and, reach a threshold of over 4,000 watch hours and over 50,000 views on the channel. And at first I'm like, man, there are people who are like doing millions. And like, what? But I'm like, this is big to me. Like this. And so I just got on my phone and shared the amount of comments, and I've gone to church or I've gone to different events and people are like, man, congratulations, man. I saw that I'm following the journey. I'm like,
yeah,
you're following the journey? Like I'm just posting online. And it's like, no, people love to see the journey if you let them in.
Yes.
And even that for me was a trigger of, oh no, I am building a brand. And part of the brand is I'm taking people along the ride.
Yeah.
You have to have, any good story, right? You have your protagonist, you have your so for me, like, the villain in my story is not doing it God's way. It's the world's way of doing it. It's Proverbs 10 so you need a rally cry, right? So for me, it's Proverbs 10:22 of the blessing of the Lord makes a man rich. He adds no sorrow to it. So that's my rally cry of like, hey guys, there's another way to do it. And hey, you don't got to look outside of the church. We got it here, right? Like, it's present. Like, this is not a theory. Let me show you these examples, right? And it's a rally cry and something of like, listen, we are going to dismiss the way of the world's way of doing it because it's leading them to sorrow. We're going to take the way that Jesus has laid out in Scripture for us to build. Yeah. And here's how it leads to life, right? And so all those different things, and you do it and you say it consistently and you do it all the time. And like, a lot of times I feel like I see with brands of like, in the beginning, people will put a lot of effort to it and then they stop telling that story because it gets old to them.
Right.
Or they think, man, they've heard that already. Man, the amount of meetings I've been, it's like, no, they don't. They don't know. Or they probably forgot. And it's like, you got to tell them over and over. I mean, like you said with Jesus, the kingdom of God is like, the kingdom of God is like, the kingdom of God is like, because you got to tell it same way, maybe a little spin, same way, a little spin, but you're saying it. I just think that is so critical for people to get. Yeah. You do have to invite people into a store if you want to build something. Because what's the point of a brand? A brand builds trust, and a brand builds following. Yes. It's like, hey, where you go, I'll go. If you say jump, I say how high. That's what a brand does. Yes. But just like a company that just exists, is like, okay, well, if you meet my needs right now, cool. As soon as you don't, all right, see ya.
Yeah, and I think too, I've found that most people who are they're more left brain thinkers, they're operators, they're incredible at numbers and statistics and things like that, really have a tough time, especially when it comes to if they are a CEO or a COO, they're at some level of high leadership, with understanding the value of a brand. And the way that I've always gotten to communicate it is that the operations, the structure of the business is very much to the skeleton, the body, whereas the brand is the soul. It's like a body without a soul is simply a structure walking around lifeless. But a soul without a body is uncontainable, and we can't metamorphosize it into some sort of there needs to be a vessel. And so it's like if you have a roller coaster without tracks, there's just, you must have the tracks in order for the coaster to run. And so
that's a great explanation. A body without a soul is a business without a brand.
Yes, 100%. And you feel it. We're going to feel, because we're emotional beings, we're going to feel everything we experience. Period. It doesn't, if it's intentionally felt or unintentionally felt. But we're going to feel it. And so we know that feeling when we walk into a terrible gas station and it smells bad and they didn't pay attention to the brand. Absolutely. It's flickering and there's garbage everywhere and everything's sorted unevenly and all the brands that they carry are really they're cheap brands and they have cigarettes. You just front and center and versus when you go into a Buc-ee's.
You took the words out of my you see how happy I got? It's the Disney World of gas stations.
100%.
The bathroom's always clean to a T.
Totally.
They got mascots. It's the only gas station I know where people will take pictures in the front of it. Saying it's a landmark. I'm here.
It's TikTokable.
It's just a gas station.
100%. And you just literally narrated what most people do is they try to put some language around a feeling they have. And so when you say, well, okay, Buc-ee's, they don't put the price on the road signs as you're driving by. They don't put the price of gas. And so you're going to have one group of people that's going to say, well, that's stupid of them because how am I going to know if it's cheaper? And you're going to have the other group of people that are going, it doesn't matter. It could be $5 more.
Exactly.
And I'm going to still go. And I might not get gas, but I'm still going to go and experience the inside. But the thing is that because we're emotional beings, we're going to maybe pass by a gas station that has 10 cents cheaper gas. And then it's a reason why their billboards say only 180 miles to go.
It is crazy. I've never seen a gas station like 100 miles and they will line those billboards up and I guarantee you I'm tracking my gas.
You're like, I gotta pee so bad, but I'm passing waiting. That gas station and that gas station.
I'll hold it. Absolutely.
Yes. And so but then what's required is language. So as you're building a brand, the great thing about creatives is that we have the ability to quantify feelings. And we can trap a feeling, we can harness it, we can turn it into a movie, a story, art, whatever it is. We can harness feelings and we can put them into some sort of a dimension that is easily expressible. The beauty about brand is that you take something, a feeling that's easily expressible, harness it, but then you must give it language for somebody else to talk to their friends about. And so when somebody experiences, going back to Buc-ee's, they experience Buc-ee's, they have an amazing experience in the store. Well, now as a smart branding mind, you must be able to have given them these quantifiable, tangible experiences to then be able to go and tell their friends about it. And so they come up with the bathrooms are super clean. They come up with, the food is really good. You got to get the brisket sandwich. They come up with the beaver nuggets are incredible. There's 150 gas pumps. Okay, all of these things that I just listed are things that they've actually written out in marketing literature for you to be able to comprehend and put language to because we're emotional beings. We feel with the right side of our brain, but we communicate with the left. And so as a brilliant branding guy, if you've got people who are listening who are like, man, I'm just trying to get to that next level and creating a brand that it feels good. It's, man, people love the feeling of it, but it's just not sticking. There's something about being able to build a brand that has the elements where you not only create the gooey nature of it, but you also can for your customers or for your members, you put language for them to help them go, oh, the gas station's amazing. The bathrooms are so clean. The beaver nuggets are great. Had you not told them that,
Yep.
they would have walked away going, "Oh my gosh, that was amazing." And then their friends go, "Well, what's amazing about it?" You're like, "I don't know. It's just like, it's like, wow, you know?" And they're like, "Okay, so what?" You know, we have to be able to put language to it in order to make it become shareable and viral and all the things that we want it to be.
That is so good. I mean, every great brand that we know does that, whether it's, Disney World, whether it's Chick-fil-A.
It's a small world after all.
Literally,
put language to it.
They call their employees cast members, right?
Yeah.
Like all those, everything is very intentional. I mean, Donald Miller is like coined the phrase like good branding is telling people how to talk about you.
Yes.
And exactly what you said. And I think for us, like even with Faithustle, like I develop language and I develop, okay, what are we going to call certain things, or even the pillars and all the, and I think for any language to stick, it needs to be repetitive.
Yeah.
It needs to be said over and over and over. Like even like the first point that you said of like having the encounters with the Lord. I know that because a lot of that language is from Mercy Culture, the church you come from, daily encounters, right?
Yes.
That's a language. Any tribe, any culture, you need language.
Yes.
And it's language that's repetible. Like, hey, here at this church, here at this brand, we do this, we say this, we are this, right? And it's like you give it an identity. And because everybody wants to belong.
Yes.
And that becomes this is what, like for my church at Shoreline is like, we raise up Christ-like leaders and make it on earth as it is in heaven. And we have a creed. We actually say verbally every Sunday, I am loved by God. I cannot earn it. I cannot lose it. In Christ, I'm forgiven and made brand new. I live with passion and purpose to be the church in the world and to live. I'm empowered by the Spirit to be a church in the world and live for the glory of God. We say that every single Sunday. Like it's language that's giving us our fuel of I belong.
Yes.
I'm here. And so all these different things, I think the great brands do it so well that it seems subtle or like, oh, they didn't plan that. It's like, no, they planned it.
Right.
And it's like, it's so good that you don't think they planned it. But like, why are you all saying the same things? Why are you wearing a Bucky shirt around like on a normal day? It's a gas station. Why are you? Because that's what a good brand does.
Yes.
And I think it's so amazing.
Yeah.
I think it's so amazing.
We, my wife and I always talk about when we're going through a trial season, and for us, the past couple of years have just been like one long trial period, and I think there's been a lot of people who can relate to that. But when
I sure can.
when we're in those moments, we say it's the messy middle, the beautiful messy middle. And in the messy middle, we have the ability to, fundamentally realize that we're in a place that God's designed. He's orchestrated, he's in it, he's present, and there's value in it. And so in the same way, I think a lot of times that brands are in a kind of a messy middle where they're in this place where they're starting to, maybe catch some wind, or they've got some, they've got some good things going for them. They've got some tough, challenges they're facing, but it's hard to really get their customers to stick. And that's one thing I've always, it's a language they've always used. I don't get my customers don't stick. They don't stay around. The retention isn't there. But it's interesting because retention and stickiness, those feel like two different words. Stickiness is almost, it's this like
elusive.
But it's gooey. It makes you want to, I don't know, be a part of something bigger than yourself.
Yeah.
And so as we talk about story and branding and all these things, I think a lot of times business owners can get a little bit overwhelmed with this idea of, okay, I've got to tell my story, because we think of story and we think of two things. We think of a book, or we think of, sitting around the campfire with your buddies, a movie, and all of those things are very long form. They require dialogue. They require this big narrative conversation. Whereas when we talk about a brand, that's not what we're referring to. We're not referring to some big, giant, dialogue, or really monologue, since you're the one doing the speaking. What we're referring to is really the capacity to be able to create experiential moments inside of your brand that connect into the right side of the brain to your consumers. And then ultimately, so that they can give them the language to be able to move from the right side to the left side.
Yeah.
And so at Oak and Eden, one of the things that I practiced from the very beginning was, in order to be a brand that is sticky, we must personify everything. Meaning there must be a face, a character in everything we do. And not just a face, but as I say the word specifically, character. There must always be somebody in our imagery, in our advertising, whatever it is, there must always be somebody that is in costume. And that costume can be cowboy persona, it can be Americana, it can be some sort of a surfer, like Americana surfer dude in California, whatever it is. We must find a theme and then build a character and personify the brand, because what we don't relate to as humans, we don't relate to product.
No.
We relate to people.
Yes, we do.
And so we about 90% of our content was human first, product second. And so that is a relatable thing across all industry, B2B and B2C, across every product line, whatever it is to be able to, you don't have to tell some long form narrative or do a podcast and sit for 60 minutes and, try to understand who the character of a person is or a brand is, but you must be able to personify what you're doing into some sort of an assumptive narrative. And one of the best brands I think that does it is Yeti.
Yes.
Yeti has built an incredible brand out of coolers. And I've always said, if Yeti could turn coolers into a brand where coolers had always been a commodity, then anybody can turn a commodity into a brand.
Yes. Again, someone might be wanting to become a coach. Explain a little bit of what life coaching is, because I think some people have different definitions of it. And I would say this, you don't really know the benefit of a coach until you get one. And because I can see someone from a life coach, like you need someone to coach for your life. Yeah. But if you look at some people's life, they jacked up. It's like, you need a coach.
Yeah.
You need some, and you need someone to hold you accountable. You need someone to see what you don't see. Yeah. And I'm not trying to give your job description away. I'm just hyping you up of it's needed. But maybe in your words, explain what a life coach is, what the purpose of one is, and how it impacts someone's life.
Yeah. So kind of playing off of what you're saying, I always feel like the best way to describe it is to use sports teams. So like a football team or a basketball team, they have their players that are in the game and they're playing the game and they're running the plays, and they're trying to score, right? And a life coach is kind of like when the players take a step out of the game and they have these little timeouts, and then the coach comes in and they're telling them different plays that they can do. They're seeing the things that they're not seeing because they're in the game. And so the best way I can say it is that's what life coaching is. It's like you're in your life. And so it's really hard to be completely mindful of all the things that are going on, because you can only be so mindful, there's got to be times where you take times like a timeout and you have an unbiased opinion that is able to ask you powerful questions that you're maybe not asking yourself out loud, or you're not talking about these things out loud, because you can do that with your friends, you can do that with your family, but there's going to be biases around it versus if you come and you meet with a life coach, they're going to give you that unbiased opinion. They're also going to be able to hold that space for you when you need that space, not just tell you what you want to hear, but call you out on the things that you need to personally develop in. So I would say do you, have any lack of confidence in any area of your life? Do you, are you a victim to your past? Are you a victim to your circumstances? Do you struggle with building relationships? What's your love life look like? What's your friendships look like? What's your faith look like? I mean, we can go in all the categories of your life. And if they're not saying they have to be thriving, we're all human. So there's going to be, an imbalance somewhere. But a life coach actually helps you, I would just say, not a shortcut, but they're beneficial to your life, so you don't have to continue falling and scraping your knees over and over again. You kind of have that guidance to pick you back up.
No, that's so good. Yeah. I think, and like I said, I think unless you've had one, it's tough to know. Yeah. Every person that I know, every business owner that I know, and it might be a business coach, and even business coach ends up being life coach,
Yeah.
like life coaching, because it's tough to talk business and not talk life, right? It's that's why Faithustle,
Intertwined.
it's one word, right? Because it's not two separate, it's both and. There's no such thing, in my opinion, as business ethics. You just have ethics. You either have it or you don't, right? You know, it can't just work in the business world. It's got to work in life, right?
Yeah.
But I think the people that I know that have had life coaches, business coaches, I can see the difference in their life. They're like, they shoot up.
Yeah.
Because you have someone, like you said, in that timeout, they're giving you real, like they're helping you see what you don't see, because you're just tunnel focused in the game.
Yeah.
In your business and your career and your relationships, and you're not seeing
Exactly
from another point of view. I mean, heck, that's why God talks about in scripture that, you know, we are, you know, confess your sins to one another, not that you may be saved, because we're only saved by the blood of Jesus, but that you may be healed. That the only healing literally only comes relationally when you tell somebody else what you're, you know, and so it's a powerful tool. And I do wish more people embraced it. I think.
I need to write that verse down. We got to remember at the end of this, we got to remember to.
Oh yeah. It's a powerful one.
That.
It refreshes you. Anytime I confess something, a sin to a brother or whatnot, there's always a load that's lifted. So like that's the principle, but like in this, it's like there's actually a structure behind it. Yeah. And it's the last thing I'll say. I was thinking of I think is it James Clear? I want to say Atomic Habits, and he talks about we are the default of our habits. So you might have a goal, but you'll always default to whatever habit, you know, cyclical pattern that you have.
Yeah,
and
most convenient, most efficient, easiest.
Right, and for whatever reason it is. And so having someone to help you break that can get you, you know, to the next step.
Well, because whatever is not convenient or efficient or easy, the brain views that as an obstacle or a challenge that could literally mean life or death for you. Like the brain views that as something to be afraid of because it's unfamiliar with it. So when you're getting uncomfortable, when you are facing your fears, when you're doing something that requires change and something that you're not doing already, the brain literally views that as like red flag. Don't go that way. It's unfamiliar, and I want to stay with what I'm familiar with. And most of the times that's not good habits.
Wow.
A lot of times where we fall into just autopilot mode of what we're used to, and then we get into this comfort, this place of comfort, and that really holds us back from being the best versions of ourselves or following and being obedient to God's calling, because he's not going to call you to be comfortable 24/7 and live in a shell. Like, he wants you to build relationships. He wants you to get outside your comfort zone and discover all that he's called you to be. So
that's so good.
Yeah.
It's funny. So in my Sabbath month that I took, one of the things that was revealed to me in my own journey was, you know, I have these big dreams, right? Got these big visions, got these big, you know, big stuff.
Let's go.
And we here for it.
We here for it.
And the first day of my Sabbath, I'm driving, you know, I got worship on, I'm praying. And the Holy Spirit just sneak up on you something, and you're just like, man, why you just like in my business? But it was good. And the Holy Spirit literally told me, you don't believe you deserve the things I want to give you.
Wow.
Just thought I'd let you know. And I'm over here bawling I'm like, and I started realizing I have intentions for success, for my visions, my goals, different things. But I have an operating system that won't match up to where I'm trying to go. Yeah. And in the Bible, giving a biblical reference for it, it's Jesus called it, you have new wine and you're trying to put it in old wineskins. Yes. If you do that, it's going to burst. Yeah. And so you have to get new wineskins first so that it doesn't burst. Yeah. And so I was realizing I got these new wine ideas and dreams with old wineskin thinking. Wow. And old wineskin mindset. And so I had to God had to work on me. You know? But having a coach, having someone who can see, because, you know, the Bible says out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. All you got to do is hear someone talk and you're like, oh, I know what that is. You know, like, have you been able to pick that up of like what's the easiest things if someone has a limiting mindset or something? what's the first tell in a conversation, in a session, that you're like, oh yeah, that's a limiting belief?
Okay, so how do I identify limiting beliefs?
Yeah.
A lot of times when I hear like I can't, or I don't know how, or it's how I've always been, that's just how I am. Very, I would say, fixed. When I hear a fixed mindset, I'm like, okay, there's a limiting belief attached to that. Which a fixed mindset, there's a growth mindset and a fixed mindset. A growth mindset is you are able to see the opportunities. You're able to be open-minded. You can take into consideration, why something would be this way versus why it would be that way. Versus a fixed mindset is like you are a victim of your circumstances. You can't be open-minded to considering other opportunities or possibilities. So, and that a lot of times stems from, it could be from childhood. It could be from a bad relationship, some type of toxic relationship between the client and what it was like for them to be raised. So it could have been a teacher that said something. Could have been a family member that said something to them, or just their environment and how they grew up. And so it's breaking those chains of what actually developed that thought, and that it just became a thought pattern that they didn't even realize was a thought pattern. And then the thing is like we develop more so they're not all stemmed from like our childhood, because I'll have clients who, I remember I had this one client who was so set in stone on trying to figure out why, I can't remember if it was like why she had anxiety or why she really couldn't handle like rejection or a fear of abandonment. It was something like that. And she was like, I want to know why. Like, I want to get to the root cause of it. I want to know, what's the exact moment when it happened. And that's not always the case. A lot of times. So I guess to kind of go back to what we're talking about, what life coaching is, there is a counseling approach where you are talking a lot about past focused, traumas and things like that. And then there's a coaching approach where you can actually begin to step into that best version of yourself, and you don't always have to go to the past. It was more so like she was so set and fixed on that she needed to find the exact moment of when she developed this mentality of fear of abandonment, like walking through her entire childhood. And nothing was working. Like, she was like, okay, I was abandoned here, I was abandoned there, I was abandoned here. And like, she wanted to find that exact, I don't have memories when I was this years old. And it was just like, this isn't serving us, trying to pinpoint it. What we do need to work on is this mentality that you, the fear of being abandoned that you have right now, right? Like, so what is so scary about being abandoned? And a lot of times it comes down to, just having trust that you're going to be okay. A lot of times it ends up being biblical and, turning it to God. But not all of my clients are always Christian. I am very open with them. Like, hey, I'm Christian. I use God in my in my sessions and all of that. But I know this kind of went off on a tangent.
No. This is good. You're teaching good. You're teaching good.
We're talking about limiting beliefs, but it doesn't always stem from. A lot of times it does stem from childhood or from something a parent said or somewhere back then. But yeah, it's when I hear certain words that are very fixed of I can't, I don't know how, this is how I've always been.
And why you need it. And I'm glad we're going in this direction, because I almost had another place we're going to go. But I'm like, I like where we're going, because hopefully from this, I would love to encourage someone, whether they use you or someone else, to find a coach or someone, because it's very hard you could be the most self-aware person and still everyone has blind spots and still miss when like, oh, I do always say that. Or there's even some things of like, I've noticed myself like culturally, like, oh, black people, this is what we do this, we don't do this.
Yeah.
And it's it's funny when it's like swimming or something else, but it's really terrible if it's something like family matters or business matters or different other things. It's like, who said that? Mm-hmm. Who said, like, you made a stereotype a universal truth for your life, and you set a limitation. Thank you so much for watching this week's episode of the Faith Hustle podcast. We hope you were encouraged, inspired, and feel equipped to walk out your faith hustle. If you want to come on this journey with us in growing in our business and faith, I encourage you to subscribe to the podcast, whether it be on audio platforms like Apple or Spotify or YouTube. We would love to take this journey with you, and we can't wait to see what God does in your business. We look forward to seeing you soon.